This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code DETROIT to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Doc and Jock podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. I think you've recovered from tailgating at Eastern Market, have you?
I'm still kind of putting my life back together. It was in pieces after Sunday. Great time, though. Hey, if you guys don't get a chance, you need to go down to Eastern Market. You need to tailgate there. It was I had a blast, man. I had a fantastic time. My cousin Jeff and my uncle Merv put on a show. I ended up drinking, I think, until like 2 a.m. that day. I was a complete and utter mess.
Set the scene. So you go down there, and it seems like it's a good time. The weather was pretty decent on Sunday. It's the Lions and the Cowboys. You're at Eastern Market. What's it like? I seen that you guys were taking shots off of surfboards. Seemed like a good time.
Oh, yeah, there was a shot ski for sure. We had a DJ. We had all kinds of food. We had 2 tents basically lined up side by side with a heater and a big screen TV in there. My cousin goes all out when he does tailgating. So he has that, I think it's through Dish, where he's got the little like portable satellite dish that he can take with him. So we're able to watch the game. We had it piped through the DJ speakers. And it was fantastic. It really was. Got to meet a lot of cool people, made some new friends. Got to see some old ones. It really was a fantastic time. Now, the one thing that did surprise me, I think this surprised you as well, because we were talking as the game was unfolding. What happened inside Ford Field was there was not a boisterous Detroit crowd. It seemed like it was taken over by Cowboy fans.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
On my way down to Eastern Market, we didn't run into any traffic. I was anticipating us, because my sister takes forever to do everything. I was anticipating us being late to the tailgate. I was anticipating us having to wait in a lot of traffic, and we ran into no traffic whatsoever. So it led me to believe that Detroit fans have essentially given up on the season.
Yeah, the fans were there. I mean, it wasn't a sellout. There were empty seats, but I guess as the day progressed, everyone did indeed hear the "Let's go defense" chants when the Lions offense was there. The Cowboy chants were very loud. There was a lot of white at Ford Field. So I guess to set the scene, what the NFL does is they have what they call this flex spending or flex pricing in terms of the price of tickets. So Obviously, against the Redskins, if they were playing at Ford Field, the price would be $5. But against the Cowboys, the ticket price was a little bit higher. So what the Lions fans did, very smart, is they recognized, oh, we can make some coin and sell our tickets to Dallas fans at a higher price because the ticket was worth more because it's the Cowboys. So the Lions fans actually stepped up, made the right call financially, or if they just said, you know what, Stafford's not going to be there, the odds of the Lions winning was going to be less than 0. So they just said, you know what, I'm not going. And smart on the Lions fans that did that because, look, if you can make some money off the Lions and sell to the Cowboy fans, at the end of the day, the Lions aren't giving you what you want. They're not going to make you happy. So I think you did the best thing. I mean, I was happy just being there, but I knew it was going to be a loss. And I had to work, so it was a little bit different. Whereas you had a good time. You were entertained by the whole process. I mean, I think you went into it knowing that the Lions weren't really going to win. And it probably, you thought it was going to be a blowout where I thought it would be a little bit more competitive. And that's kind of how it shook out in terms of the game because it's the NFL and, most games are usually within 10. But in terms of how you handled it, you did the right thing, man. You got drunk, you partied, you hung out with family, you did the right stuff. Most Lions fans said, you know what? I'm just chilling at home, kick my feet up, couple extra bucks in my pocket. What's the purpose of going down to Ford Field to cheer for what? 5 good plays? And I was surprised because the Cowboy fans were loud, like they were organized, and they knew when to do it. They cheered at key moments for the Lions, and the Lions fans that were there did indeed try to drone out and boo at certain times, but you saw all the videos. I mean, I was like, whoa, because it's the first time in almost 10 years I've seen the opposing fan base just take over to that degree. I mean, it's happened now quite a bit in Detroit with Toronto coming in with the Pistons and the Red Wings and even the Tigers. The Toronto fans come in hot to Detroit. So in the world of Detroit sports, I don't blame the fans one bit, but when you're there seeing it, in that context, it was crazy. And yes, the Lions fans, I think that moment indicated to everybody that they have given up on the season. And just based on the reaction to the articles, our podcasts, the negative Lions fans are out in full force against the Lions, and they should be. The team hasn't performed well. They're not giving themselves the best opportunity to win with that defense. And unfortunately, the team now basically is almost there. They're mathematically almost eliminated from the postseason. It's not going to happen another year where the Lions are not going to take part in the postseason. So I don't blame the fans one bit. But I do want to ask you, because you and I both are fans of sports radio, and Mike Valeni, and he said he was definitely proud. He's like, yes. He said Thanksgiving should be empty. There are other sites calling for revolts and protests and things like that. But he actually went a step further and said fans specifically at Eastern Market are to blame and should be looked down upon for even supporting the team. He's like, no, he didn't say Adam Straczynski, but he's like, those fans that are just wilding out and tailgating down there at Eastern Market, they're to blame. Why are they even showing support for this garbage product? Why even don the Honolulu blue and silver? Why even go down to Eastern Market and tailgate? He's calling for a complete dismissal of the team. So how did you respond to that? Because it's fascinating, because I'm like, oh my God, he's talking about Adam. He was talking about you specifically. You were down there, you're supporting the team, you're watching, and at this point in time, for me, I mean, obviously I'm never going to not support and watch the Detroit Lions, but I could see if you're a fan of winning and you're a fan of good football, it's super tough every year because, at least for me, 3-4 times a year, I go, why do I still support this team?
Well, I'm in a weird spot here, man, because I think I might, if I'm in town for Thanksgiving, I might go down to the Thanksgiving Day tailgate because, again, my cousin and my uncle are throwing a massive bash there. All that being said, I want to take you back to the fourth quarter with roughly 5 minutes, 50 seconds left. Lions just score a touchdown. Game is basically, you just got to take the extra point. You're within a touchdown here.
Yes.
So all of a sudden it's a close game, and you have a shot to maybe win this one, or at least send it to overtime. Play for overtime. Give your team a chance to win. Your boner jam of a head coach decides to go for 2. The moment he decided to go for 2, I lost my mind. I'm done with this team. I'm done with Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia is an idiot, and I'm trying to be polite here. But I absolutely lost my mind. I do not understand what he was thinking. I don't understand what he's trying to do. He is a horrible situational coach.
Have you read?
Hold on. No, I heard. And I don't give a shit. Okay. This guy is a goddamn moron. All right. You alienate your players. On top of that, when you're playing inside of a game, you have the audacity to put your players in bad spots. And this is just situational football, man. That's all this is. If you're a good coach, you understand this. You could be less than a good coach. You could be freaking Jay Gruden, who's not a very good head coach, and understand what you have to do here. You kick the goddamn extra point. You then go down 7. Give yourself a chance. I don't believe that your defense, because your defense is utter shit. The defense that you run, the part of the team that you have absolute control over, because you're a defensive mastermind. You're a defensive guru. But your defense looks like absolute trash every single week. So I don't think you were going to get a 3 and out because you're just not good enough. But on the occasion that you are able to force a punt after, 2 minutes, 5 seconds, like you were able to do, you then put yourself in a position to be able to go down the field, score a touchdown, kick the extra point, and then go into overtime. This is situational football. Instead, what you do is you take a quarterback, not your starting quarterback, your backup quarterback, okay? A guy who has played, roughly 7 games his entire career? And look, I think Driskel is a decent quarterback. I think you might have found something here. I don't think he's going to be a superstar, but he is a guy who could maybe bridge the gap for your future in something that I'm going to bring up later on in this topic, all right? But you put this guy in a spot where you need him to complete a 2-point conversion instead of taking the easy point. You are an idiot. Take the easy point. Play from down 7, not down 8, because then what happens? If you are fortunate enough to go down to the field and score a touchdown, now you have to make that 2-point conversion to have a shot to win this game in overtime. So unless you yourself have given up on the season, which, mind you, no head coach ever does because you always play to win. So unless you have given up on the season and you're just not telling the rest of us, you look like a fucking idiot. You look like an idiot. You are a moron. I do not get this. Now, last year, you go out and you trade for a guy like Snacks. Snacks comes in, takes your defense from being very mediocre towards the bottom of the pack. It brings it up to be a top 10 defense. And we're all like, all right, cool. We see the improvement. We get this, right? I think everybody started to kind of buy in. Let's fast forward to this year. This team has progressively gotten worse as the season has wore on. You now have Snacks for an entire season. You went out and you spent money on Trey Flowers. All right, you got your number 1 cornerback back in the fold, and yet your defense is one of the worst in the league, if not the worst in the league. You are supposed to be this defensive-minded genius, this guy who helped the New England Patriots win championships, and you can't stop a sieve, dude. You are freaking god awful.
Okay, so now
listen to this. I have Darius Geis on my fantasy team. Darius Geis has played one game. He's been basically beat up his entire career. Guess what I'm going to do on Sunday? Guess who's going to be in my starting lineup? Darius Geis. You know why? Because that defense can't stop anything. Because your head coach is an idiot. And, we're trying to build a system. What is this system? Does anybody get this? Does anybody understand this? If you do, please explain it to me. Because this team provides no pressure to the quarterback. They actually rank fifth from the bottom with only 20 sacks on the season. 20 sacks on the season. This team is brutal. Absolutely. You go out and you spend all this money on a guy, on an edge rusher to sack a quarterback. Yet all you do is you show 4-man fronts, and you know what you bring? You bring 3 or 4-man fronts. You don't bring any pressure. How about you disguise something? How about you try something different? I mean, after the game, Dak Prescott was like, "Oh, we knew what we were going to get." I had ample time sitting in the pocket to go through my reads, not just once, but sometimes twice, and sometimes 3 times. What are we talking about here? Like if a quarterback comes out and says that about your defense, or about your head coach or your defensive coordinator. They should be fired there on the spot. It doesn't make sense to me, man. Explain it to me. Please, explain it to me. Please,
okay.
Because I just don't get it. I don't get it. You're there.
Yes.
You're in the locker room. You've got a microphone in front of these clowns' faces. You have to sit in that press conference with this slug, with this god-awful human being known as Matt Patricia. You sit there in front of this scumbag, the guy who's taking money from Martha Ford, the guy who's running this team into the ground. You sit there in front of this loser. So you tell me what the hell is going on and how it works.
Okay, so
because I don't get it.
Yeah, on the 2-point conversion, unfortunately, analytics got into play, and mathematically speaking, if you're gonna do that down, 2 touchdowns.
What do the analytics say? Take the easy point, man.
No, analytics say it's the odds are higher in your favor to go for 2 in that spot. But here's the problem with that. That's with probably a healthy quarterback, a healthy offense, and everything going right. So you're absolutely right. There's no context behind it. There's no thinking in game because it's just numbers. So numbers say that if you're down 14, you should go for 2. So mathematically, he made that choice. But at the end of the day, it's a stupid choice because you really think you're going to have a higher percentage of converting 2-point conversions with Jeff Driskel. I mean, that's the silliness of it, is that you ask yourself, okay, we're down 14, and obviously many people are correct. He's being aggressive because he realizes, shit, my defense can't stop him. I got to get this down, to 6 points so that a touchdown can potentially help us out drastically. So he knows the defense is struggling mightily, and there's just, unfortunately, a scenario in which there's some injuries, and there are moments where the guys are not executing. But here's the problem, okay? The scheme that he's trying to run involves a lot of layers, it involves a lot of in-game decisions that you got to make on the fly. Now, guys that are experienced, like Tavon Wilson, Darius Slay, they can adjust on the fly and make those plays. But a lot of those guys are young, and on the fly, they're not getting it. So unfortunately, here's the problem. Matt Patricia is trying to instill this advanced defense that these guys can't run. And he'll sit there and tell you, we can do this, we can do that, and we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that. But at the end of the day, whether you believe in the scheme or not, he keeps saying that they're not consistent in executing because they keep making the same mistakes in terms of assignments, in terms of things that they, see on the field that they're supposed to do, but then they don't do, because there's a lot of layers to this. And unfortunately, the defense, in my opinion, is just wrong. It's based on, this notion of containing and not giving up the big play. But unfortunately, look, I put a piece up and I highlighted. I asked, Pasqualoni specifically, on Tuesday when he has his teleconference on that play, despite all the complaints, you're down by a touchdown, okay? And you have a 3rd down. And if you go to SI and you see that play on film, Dak Prescott is standing there literally with nobody within 5 yards of him. He has so much time to pick apart that defense. There was literally no chance that the defense was going to get off the field. That was one of the key plays in the game. You didn't bring any pressure. And he answers in some ho-hum, woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of way, and he dismissed my question. But I tweeted it right then and there. I said that call and that defense is going to preclude the Lions from winning because they just don't have enough to get pressure. And also remember, Trey Flowers, who's performed well, he went out with a concussion. Rick Wagner's out with, a situation. Ragnow went out. And so they're getting decimated by injuries. And, unfortunately, bad teams, that's what happens. And look, fundamentally speaking, you could see Patricia's defense working, but he doesn't have 5 years to instill it. People are calling for his head now. And unfortunately, I think the question that he keeps getting asked that he won't answer is, can you radically change your defense at this point in the season? And I think the answer is no. And unfortunately, the problem for Detroit fans that want Patricia out is this Stafford injury is going to give everybody a pass. He's going to come back. I don't see a scenario where he gets fired. Stafford's been hurt, plethora of injuries. They started the year off 2-0-1 with some victories. So I think that's going to be enough to keep his job, and especially when you're friends with the boss. I mean, unless Martha would have to fire Quinn and Patricia And I don't think that's going to happen just yet. So you're going to have to get another year of this. And so with that said, Pasqualoni is going to get fired. They're going to make changes to it, but we can have the debate. The defense is not good enough.
Okay, well, let's do this then, all right? Let's do this then, all right? For one, when he was in New England, did he have 5 years to instill a defense? I don't think so. And they were winning Super Bowls. All right, so if Pasqualoni gets fired, I just want to put that out there. But now if Pasqualoni gets fired, are you going to bring in another defensive coordinator? Shouldn't this fall on Patricia's plate? Shouldn't Patricia take over this hot mess that is known as the Lions defense? Shouldn't it be placed right in front of his face? I mean, I don't think any of us believe that Pasqualoni is actually making the calls here. I don't think any of us believe that since day one. I think we all kind of looked at it. We just kind of looked at each other and kind of rolled our eyes and laughed and giggled like, yeah, okay, cool. This old fart who did nothing in college is going to come over here and he's going to try to run something with Patricia. Patricia's the brains of the operation. If that's the case, go ahead, fire that clown and you take it over. You run this. You show me the dramatic improvement with underneath your helm. You doing what you want to do instead of your butt boy doing whatever he's doing. It's all smoke and mirrors, man. Honestly, Quinn should be fired. Patricia should be fired. Quinn can't make friggin' draft picks. They miss on everything. So what the hell are we talking about? And I shouldn't say they miss on everything. That's just a little bit of me being overzealous right now. But he misses on a ton of draft picks. And then what you end up doing is you find something, you have something, and what do? You trade it away for a bucket of balls and 4 used jock straps. Like, what is this going to do for this team? It does nothing. You have no safety help, yet you trade Quandre Diggs. It makes no sense, man. This is bizarro world. If you're trying to get a top 5 draft pick this year, cool, I get it. If that's the case, Matt Stafford needs to be put on the IR right now.
Yes.
Put Stafford on IR. Don't let him play. You wrote I think you wrote a nice article about what the doctors told Matt Stafford. Will you please enlighten us?
Most people thought it was a minor situation, but on Sunday it was reported that he's got a 6-week injury, and it's not one of those things where it's going to be minor. It's going to be one of those things where, he's got to definitely rest up, and I believe that he's probably, they were targeting him to come back by Thanksgiving, but I think it's going to probably be a situation where he misses this week and he misses the Thanksgiving game and probably comes back the week after. In my mind, he should be shut down. But this is concerning because this kind of goes into the realm of not just fractured bones in his back, but this goes into a scenario that was similar to what happened to Tony Romo. Meaning, it's not going to affect him this year. He can probably get back on the field and play. The nervousness now that everybody that listens to my voice should be worried about is if he gets hit again, if he lands on his back awkwardly, hell, if he's going to town with his wife and there's a problem, he could risk further injury to his back. And it's a situation in which I'm not worried about his career. I'm concerned that any given hit that he takes, because that line, with all the injuries, you've seen Jeff Driskel take a couple shots. If he takes a shot the wrong way, then this could be a lingering problem where, the days of Matthew Stafford playing 16 games, game in, game out, might start to be a problem. And this might be the beginning of the end of Stafford's time in Detroit. Because look, as much as everyone loves Stafford and the fans adore him, Bob Quinn's an OG. He's looking at it like, oh, you know what? He could be viewing Stafford as damaged goods. You keep him around one more year in 2020, and then you trade him. A guy that, a former radio programmer, he put out a great tweet. He said, now with Stafford's back injury, it makes it kind of academic. This year, you draft high. If you're in the top 10, you draft Matthew Stafford's replacement, and you start the process of moving next right now. And if they do that, then that will signal that Stafford's time in Detroit is probably coming to an end. And I think, honestly, my honest opinion is it's time. It's time. Stafford's going to, unfortunately, I hate to, let go of a quarterback, but remember, this isn't healthy Matthew Stafford. This is Matthew Stafford now that's going to be dealing with a lingering back situation for the better part of his career, and he's 32 years old. So you might be dealing with a problem here because you can't risk paying Stafford another $200 million when he's got that injury situation. So this is going to be concerning, something to watch. But the Lions, when they're supposed to do A, they do B. When they're supposed to do B, they do A. And then when they're supposed to do A and B, they fuck up everything and try something outlandish. And so
But here's the thing, right? So it's academic. You've already said at the beginning of this podcast that the season's over.
Season's over. It
right?
should be.
You're not playing for anything.
Nothing.
So why would you not put him on IR? It makes absolutely zero sense.
Okay.
On top of that, wait, hold on. On top of that, trading Matthew Stafford should be a thought. All right, trade him for something, not a bag of balls, not for used jock straps, but get something in return, because this guy, he was on pace to have one of his, if not his best year. And then he gets sidelined with an injury. Now, this injury is similar to the one that he had last year. So like you said, it becomes one of those things where, do we have to worry about this every single season? So at this moment in time, you need to trade him, get something in return. You have a piece. You have Driskel. Driskel can be your bridge to that gap when you draft your guy for the future. All right, Driskel can play now. Here's the thing. I was laying in bed this morning. I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm just like laying there and I just have all these random thoughts that flush through my skull. And I'm like, how many points is Jeff Driskel averaging as the Lions QB compared to what did Matt Stafford do his final 4 games before injury? Mind you, Matt Stafford was playing at the highest level he's played in quite some time those final 4 games. He looked like an elite quarterback those final 4 games. So I started doing some math. And mind you, Driskel was put into that Bears game. He only knew about it that Sunday morning. He had no idea he was even playing that game. But basically, on short notice and having a whole week to prepare for another game, he averages 20 points per game. While Matthew Stafford, playing at his most elite level, has averaged 25 points per game. You have a guy here that you can build around. You have a guy that you can do some things with. You need to move Stafford out of the way.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that because I don't like Stafford. Stafford was playing absolutely amazingly this year. Absolutely amazingly. But the problem is this back injury is going to linger.
Yes.
This is going to be a problem for the future.
Yes.
You need to insulate your organization and protect yourself. You have a guy here who can get it done and looks capable if you could put a goddamn offensive line in front of him and not allow him to get murdered every single time he's under center. All right?
Yeah, so here's how I want to say it, too, because it's easy to say trade Stafford, but unfortunately, you can't trade him when he's sitting out. So the problem is he's got to come back and show that, okay, he's somewhat mobile, he somewhat can perform. And so that's the problem, is that you don't want to try and sell damaged goods for 2 first-round picks. So that's why Stafford has to come back, 1. And 2, in terms of public pressure, unfortunately, it's bad now when the team has 3 wins. But if they finish with 3 wins, it almost makes it impossible. You figure with Driskel, you can get that 4th win against Washington. Can you get 2 more wins with Stafford? And if you have a season where you go 6-9-1, you still can't sell. You can't sell that to the fan base.
No. So I think it becomes easier if you IR Matt Stafford, because then what you can do is, as an organization and as a head coach, you can come out and say, look, man, I lost the most important piece of my team. He went down with injury. We had to IR him. It made no sense for us to even risk hurting him. So now it's all about self-preservation here.
Yeah.
No, I think if you IR Stafford, it becomes an easy sell to keep Quinn and Patricia here. Whether you want it or not, it becomes an easy, because that is now the scapegoat. Matt Stafford's injury is now the scapegoat for keeping those guys here. I'm not saying I want that, but what I'm telling you is, if you're the layman fan, you're just kind of the guy who goes out there, you're down in Eastern Market, you're getting all sorts of screwed up every single weekend, and you're watching the Lions play. It becomes like, oh, well, Stafford was down, so it makes sense. Let's bring Patricia back. Yeah, we know that. We know that defense is bad, but if that team could just score, 28 points a game, we could win. That defense is only giving up about 27 every single game. So if we could score 4 touchdowns, and Matt Stafford could score us 4 touchdowns, I've seen it. It becomes an easier sell to the layman fan. Guys like you and me who are watching this stuff unfold, and we're watching it with a microscope, we understand that this defense is freaking awful. We understand that this defense is the 6th worst in the league. We understand that they're getting no pressure on quarterbacks. We understand that you should be winning games with Driskel as your quarterback, because your offense is performing. It's your defense that is weighing this team down, and the head coach is supposed to be the defensive-minded guru. So we get that. But the layman fan, I don't think necessarily understands that.
Okay,
so it becomes a simpler sell for you.
You make a great point, Cuz, and I do want to share a funny story because I knew with the influence of the podcast network, obviously with the tweets and the debates and the somewhat sarcastic nature of what we do here, some of the stuff that I put out there is in jest, sarcastic. It's not realistic, right? So I threw out a tweet, right? Because Driskel actually has played well. He's mobile, and actually, I'm not going to lie, he's nicer than Stafford in the locker room. He gave me 5 minutes of his time, and he was super nice. He was even playful because I can share. On Fridays for a couple times, the Lions bring in Chick-fil-A, and he was chowing down, and I'm like, I spoke to Carry-On, and Carry-On told me he could take down 5. How many can you take down? He's like, well, there's a difference between how many I do and can, but he's like, I probably could take down 5 or 6. I'm like, oh, nice, and he was funny, and so then on Monday, I'm in the locker room, and I'm like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions just about running the football and kind of your mindset? He's like, sure, and he was so friendly and gave me a candid answer about like, kind of the decision that, at that split-second moment, what's it like when you got to decide whether you run it or not? And he was awesome and candid, way more so than Stafford has ever been. So I'm happy with that, and I've enjoyed getting to see him play a little bit. So on Sunday, I put out a tweet, and here's the funny part, because I thought it would signal that it was an obvious joke. So the tweet goes, 248-579-8686. What do you think about trading Stafford for 2 first-rounders and let's build around Driskel? And, it was like, hell broke loose. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a joke. So I'm sitting back and I'm watching the game, covering it, and all of a sudden the reactions come in from the pro-Stafford people. F you, you're the worst. I can't believe this is why Detroit sports fans are the dumbest. This is crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, I started something. And people were just like going apeshit. I'm like, oh man, maybe this one was too far. Maybe I'm going to lose followers. So it ended up, in terms of the follower count, lost about 20, but gained 50. So we gained 30 people. The comments, dude, I got so many nasty comments. So then I'm sitting in the locker room, right? Or I'm sitting down there waiting to go into the Lions locker room. Justin Rose comes up to me. He's like, what do you mean build around Driskel? I'm like, Justin. He goes, John, in the world of Twitter, there is no like in between. There's either sarcasm or facts. And I wanted to look at him because we were rushing and things like that. And that's what he told me, trying to give me advice. But I said to myself, wait a minute, I built this platform like being in the middle. Half of the shit you could believe and half of it you can't. But I said, I put the fucking phone number in there. It's a joke. Obviously, you're not going to build around Jeff Driskel being the quarterback of the future, but you could have the debate, and maybe I could have phrased it better, but oh my God, the influence that I felt, I was like, oh shit, maybe I should pay attention a little bit to what I say, but I did say, guys, I'm joking. And so for some people, I kept saying, between you and I, I'm joking. Because if you follow us, you have to follow with Detroit Sports Podcast, you have to follow us like over time, because you would see then that the nature of this tweet started because I've been joking with Shane Norling that why can't Driskel be Tom Brady? And throughout the last 2 weeks, I'm like, all right, maybe Driskel is going to win every game. And Shay would be like, are you stupid? And I'd be like, why not? Why not Driskel? And when it didn't happen, Shay's like, see, it didn't happen. I'm like, why not? Why not us? Why not the Lions? Why not Driskel win every game and take us to the Super Bowl? So that was a rib between me and Shay. I'm messing with him. So I gave it another chance because he's throwing touchdowns. So I'm like, and I kept tagging Shay in it. So you guys got to kind of follow along, and also feel free to ask. I'll tell you straight up if it's a fact, reporting based thing, or if I'm clowning around. I'm not here to hide. I'm not here to say, okay, I'll put up a post if it's popular and then backtrack. No, I'll tell you if I'm kidding around. It's pretty obvious. I mean, it's not something where it's not, there's no hidden clues that I'm clowning around. Okay, here, P.S. The texts that come in that might be from some famous people, it might be more of the entertainment nature, but it might be real. You know, Kim Kardashian could be texting Vito. You know?
The fact that you have to explain this, like, come on, people.
Come on, people, right.
Like, let's be for real.
Let's be for real here. That part of the reason why people like us is my brain has a good sarcastic nature to take information and spit it out in a way that's relevant and funny and a ribbing kind of nature. I'm a wrestling fan, and I like to stir it up a little bit, and it's fun because that's what sports is. It's poking fun at, Michigan fans. It's poking fun at Spartan fans. It's making fun of people. It's the locker room mentality of, hey, I talk shit to you, you talk shit to me, we high five, and we go on to the next day. So if you want to it was fun to kind of rile people up like that, but come on, guys. I'm not of the opinion that you build around Driskel. I just say that, you know what? Unfortunately, guys, I hate to break it to you, but listen closely. You can win with Jeff Driskel if you build a defense. He's dropping 25 points a game. If you build a world-class defense, Jeff Driskel can be the guy that's the game manager, a guy that runs the football, gets you where you need to go, and you can do it cheaper. Do you see what I'm saying? He scores 25. If your defense only scores 20, you now have a winning football team. You don't need to spend $30 million on a quarterback. Driskel is the example of what the people who are anti-Stafford are saying. You scored 30 points with Driskel almost a game. So what does that say? Exactly. You don't need Stafford at $30 million. Build the defense. You have a blueprint. You can go. Unfortunately, you don't want to, insult Driskel, but he can be just a game manager, someone you throw in there, you build a defense, you score 27 points, get him a running game. You actually could win some meaningful games with Driskel. I hate to break it to you guys, but the defense is so bad that it's not going to be advantageous for anybody. But guess what, guys? Driskel can play quarterback. You don't need Matthew Stafford. He's not God. He's not the only person that's going to get you wins. If the Lions had a defense, Driskel would be 2-0. Sorry, guys. Hate to break it to you, but that's the fact.
It is the fact. Honestly, you've never said something more true in your life. Like, if they had a defense, the guy does just enough to help this team win, and yet the defense puts them in such bad positions. I mean, when you're giving up, like I said earlier, 27 points a game, it's hard to win football games. You're not any good. On top of that, you're giving quarterbacks time to get through their progressions, not once, not twice, sometimes 3 times. That also isn't good. That means your secondary is put in a bad spot. That leads to big plays downfield. Guess what big plays lead to? Oh, now you're in the red zone. Guess what that leads to? That's points. Whether it be 3 or whether it be 7, that's points. This team is built so inappropriately and it's so flawed. Honestly, I've had a total about face when it comes to Matt Stafford. Me and Matt Stafford did not get along at all last year. I find it to be a very funny story, but Stafford played out of his mind for the first part of this season. Played great, all right? And I've come on this podcast and I've said so. But at this point, with his back injury, you as an organization would be neglecting protecting yourself. You would be in malfeasance if you were to keep him and not try to move him and not try to get something of value for him, whether it be a player or whether it be a draft pick. You should move him to get something that's going to help better this team. You have a guy who can sit at the helm and help get you to where you need to be until your quarterback of the future comes along. Driskel is a very good play setter. You don't need a dude to go out there and hang 80 points on teams. I mean, you kind of do because his defense is that bad, but you don't need a quarterback to do that. You just have to have a solid defense and have a guy who can go out there and do some things. And Driskel looks like he's a guy who could do that. I mean, let me put it this way. Would you take Driskel or would you take Trubisky?
Oh, no, Driskel for sure.
All day. So, I mean, you have a guy who is essentially better than what, a top 30, a top 35 quarterback in the league. You've got one of those right now in Driskel. So what? I don't get this team.
Yeah,
I don't, man.
Well, going forward, it's a lot of negativity, and unfortunately, not a lot of changes are going to take place. They should get the W this week. Washington is tanking, so in essence, you're going to enjoy a victory this week. The problem is going to be the quick turnaround against the Bears, but you have an opportunity to get a couple wins, and unfortunately, like in the past with Lions history, the objective is going to be to lose out, but unfortunately, they're going to cost themselves draft picks by winning, and unfortunately, they're going to play the people that are already ahead of them, so you're looking, at this point in time to be between 8 and 15, and it sucks because the ideal situation would just be to lose out. So you never know.
Just FYI, because I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but Driskel averages, I did say it, 20 points, and Stafford's averaging 25 points, so a little bit of a 5-point difference there. So
right after we show love to our sponsors, we're going to break it down. Michigan destroyed Michigan State. I was there firsthand, and we'll break it all down. It's an interesting dynamic now with Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State. Michigan moves forward. They got 2 games left one more week until the big epic showdown. I can't wait to get the reaction from Adam regarding what he thinks about the Wolverines. We'll talk about Mark D'Antonio and his decision to potentially come back in 2020. The reason why we're able to keep the lights on and the studio mics hot here in our Sterling Heights studio is because of great sponsors. And two great sponsors of Doc and Jock are the Motor City Pawnbrokers and the Flick Chat application. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name new and pre-owned merchandise with locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren. Their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers today, head on over to MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. And if you're near any of the locations, head on in and tell them the Detroit Sports Podcast Network sent you. Mark and the crew, they'll treat you exceptionally well. That's the Motor City Pawnbrokers. Visit them today at MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. If you agree or disagree with anything that Adam and I have said at any point in time, if you read a tweet from one of ours that you don't like or you want to interact daily regarding Detroit sports, download and join the Flick Chat application. What is Flick, you ask? It's a group chat application that you can go download. Very easy to join. You can head on over to your favorite app store, whether it be Google Play or the Apple Store, and what you do is you download Flick Chat, and within moments, you're entered into Detroit Sports' newest headquarters. You can chat with other Detroit sports fans. It's really like a sports forum right there via an application. It's so fun. You can create your own forum. Every single member that's in the group can create their own topics. You can then tweet them out, and you can have group discussions regarding Stafford, Driskel, Patricia, Quinn. It's real fun over there, and it's the best part about it, the reason why Adam and I like going over there every single day, is that it's so easy. It's easy to use, great user interface, and it's a great way to chat with other Detroit sports fans. So head on over today, download the Flick Chat application. It's Detroit Sports' newest headquarters, and it's a great place to interact with other Detroit sports fans. All right, cuz I was there at the big house nice and early. You got to
sit by everybody I've ever done work with.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And so
it was like 1 degree of atom separation.
Exactly. And so this time around, because of the time I got there about 9:20. I had to park like on campus, which is about 3/4 of a mile walk. So I saved $5 on parking, but it was a big walk to get there. But it was worth it. You know, you kind of wake up a little bit, you get to the big house, you settle in, and you see who you're sitting next to. So it was a great experience all the way around, getting there early and getting set up, taking some photos, and then the game started. And it was a good start for Michigan State, getting up to 7-0, but that was about it. After that, Michigan dialed in and then just really put the pedal to the metal. They were thumping, they were tackling, they destroyed the Michigan State Spartans, and it was tough to see because once the Wolverines got rolling, unfortunately, here's the situation, okay? We can make an argument, the Spartans can make an argument that early on, we had the momentum. It was 7-0, right? And then what happens? Josiah Scott gets hurt early, and it was kind of deflating all the way around because you've already been without Bocce, and now Josiah Scott goes out. It kind of was a deflating moment, and then once Michigan's offense got rolling, it was, a complete nightmare for the Spartans. They obviously didn't have enough. They didn't make plays, and they unfortunately fall to the Michigan Wolverines. And, it's not surprising. Everybody kind of knew it was going to take place, but to witness it based on what we've seen in the past, this is a totally different situation with the Spartans. I mean, the talent's just not there. The coaching on offense is not there. I mean, I tweeted multiple times, bro, they made a 5-yard screen completion look like a great play. And you'd be like, dude, how are you running this play and then missing it? You're like, what the hell? You're just running a wide receiver screen, and Lewerke's missing it. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, you don't really want to put the blame on one person, but Lewerke has regressed. He didn't take a step forward, and when he doesn't play, a good game, you see when you don't get the, sustained quality quarterback play, then everything falls apart from that. And Michigan State's in a terrible position now in terms of the program, whereas, recruiting is down, the morale around the program's down. I mean, Mark D'Antonio on Tuesday engages in his weekly presser and takes no questions regarding his next opponent. Every single question was in regards to his future. Are you coming back? Why are you, what's the motivation to come back? What are some things that could preclude you from coming back? Every question was phrased to him about his future. And he said he's coming back, which I think, at this point in time is probably what you need to say to keep recruiting up and things like that. But at the end of the day, if the Spartans maybe aren't bowl eligible, or if, they get invited to the Quick Lane Bowl and the ticket sales are disastrous, then maybe Mark D'Antonio will look to seriously sign a retirement package and get the hell out of Dodge. But for the Spartans, it was devastating. It was probably a culmination of a few bad seasons. And unfortunately right now, Michigan is the leading college football program in the state of Michigan, and Michigan State now has taken 2 steps backwards with Mark D'Antonio, and obviously changes are going to happen for the Spartans. The big question for everybody that's a Spartan supporter is going to be, do we have confidence that Mark will ever bring it back? Right now, by and large, overwhelmingly, people say no.
So should Mark D'Antonio step down? I think that's the big question on everybody's mind, and that's kind of the thing I think we need to tackle right here, because what I watched and what I witnessed on Saturday was a guy who was completely outcoached. He was a guy who looked like he had no answers for anything Michigan threw at him. And this is the guy who has been a stumbling block for the University of Michigan's football program for years now. He's been a guy who has been able to essentially take less and get way more out of it. Yet on Saturday, it looked like he shouldn't have even have been invited to the dance. And I think that was the saddest and most disturbing part of that entire game, because I, for one, have always respected Mark D'Antonio. I have always thought he is an exceptional head coach. There were years where I was begging him to change sides and come and coach the University of Michigan. And yesterday or Saturday, it looked as though he was just all out of sorts. It looked like he's just too old for this now. I mean, I think that's the best way I can put it. I'm trying to find the right words to be polite about this, but he looks like either the game has passed him by, or he is just so far gone from this team and so far detached that he just doesn't give a shit. And I know that's not Mark D'Antonio. So,
well, bro, it's natural human emotion. Look at it. He said in his press conference every morning he wakes up at 5:10 a.m. Dude's in his 60s. That shit wears on you, and especially losing and then dealing with everyone calling for your job and the constant grind to recruit and then to deal with all the athletes and then to deal with, potential steroids and then to deal with an in-game injury. That shit wears on you, just outside of skill and outside of what he should be doing, just based on normal human emotion. Fucking dude's burnt out. No doubt about it. He has to be. He's had success at the highest levels. He's done great things. But imagine you're there for a decade, waking up game in and game out every day at 5 a.m, grinding, and then putting in 12 to 15 hours, and then traveling to get someone to come to your team. And then you got to face the inconsistency in terms of, yeah, I'm coming, no, I'm not. This is what I need. This is not what I need. And now the transfer portal where you tell a guy, look, I need you to kind of, bulk up a little bit, gain 15 pounds, and you can run for me. And he's like, peace out, man, I'm out. And you're like, what the hell? I just wanted to talk to you about what I can get you to do next year. And he's like, I want to play now, I'm out. So why? I mean, remember that, he's been doing this a long time. So I can understand that notion of like, hey, how much can you logistically and realistically put into something like this? Because at the end of the day, that's what Ryan Day's doing, and he's 20 years younger. So think about that he's got to compete with guys now that are bringing in elite talent from all over the country. There's no competition. So he should walk away and just be like, you know what? I've done the best that I can, and I'll always be grateful for the opportunity. I did the job, okay? Nobody in the world expects Michigan State to win the football championship in college football, but you got there. You knocked on the door first. You had success. Now, the upside is not that great because the risk is you're going to tarnish your legacy and you're going to lose 7-8 games, consistently, in the next coming years. You're going to lose 3, 4, 5 games a year. You're not going to get that many victories, and you're not going to compete with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, with younger coaches that are now thriving. You're already behind the 8 ball. Just to catch up is going to take 3 years. it ain't worth it. Someone should sit him down after the season when the emotions subside, when the routine is different, take him to, Hawaii, take him to a nice place in Mexico and say, Mark, look, you can enjoy this the rest of your life. You've done it. You don't need to do it again. Let these young cats figure it out. Let them reach the level of success you've already had. He should retire. This is the message, Doc. This is a message from Doc personally to Mark D'Antonio. Retire. Look, we don't want to come on every week in the next 2 years on a podcast and say, look, what could have been. You can retire with your head held high. It's no shame to lose to Michigan in the big house. Look, Jim Harbaugh and Michigan, they got up for you. They played well for you. They prepared for you. That's a sign of the respect that they had for you. As much as, the rivalry is, a bunch of shit talking and things like that. For Michigan to get up for you is a testament to what you've done. They brought their A game because of what you've done, because they feared you. They feared that, oh shit, when it was 7-0, Michigan fans were scared. And that's a testament to the work that you did. Don't besmirch it anymore. Don't end on a quick lane bowl appearance and potential loss. You know what I mean? Just finish the last 2 games out, decline the bowl situation, and walk away and help the team find the next guy, whether it be Narduzzi, whether you make a big name offer to somebody that has a huge name. You never know. But my opinion is it's over for Michigan State and Mark D'Antonio, and I hope he, with some time off, recognizes it.
I agree with you. I think it's time. And last week we kind of touched on this a little bit, and I wasn't ready to say that. I wasn't ready to say that it's time for him to hang it up. But after what I witnessed on Saturday,
it's time. It's time. It's retirement time.
It is, man. It's time for him to say goodbye. It's time for him to move on. And I don't know, find a new challenge. I think Mark D'Antonio could slot in really nicely as Michigan State's next athletic director. He's a guy who gets it. He commands respect. He is a guy who loves that program. There have been multiple times where he got Michigan State to the mountaintop, where he got them competitive, and people were like, hey, maybe D'Antonio's going to leave. Maybe he's going to go someplace else. And he said, no. He said, I don't want to. This is the mountaintop. This is a great program. So he bleeds green and white. He could be your next athletic director and really help bring in the next guy, almost like Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin. A guy to help maybe mentor and help coach up the next coach, whoever that may be. But not have to do all that grunt work, all that hard work. You have to wake up at 5:10 every single day, not go on those recruiting trips, not go and try to convince the recruit not to transfer or to try to stay. He doesn't have to do that anymore. At this point in his life, man, it is time for him to take a step back.
So now let's turn our attention to Michigan. Obviously, you got one more game at Indiana, which you should be concerned about. But then back home versus Ohio State. And the question everybody's asking is, just based on what you're seeing, have you seen enough to and I asked too, and I think Michigan fans that replied at least are realistic. They don't believe that based on what they've seen, Michigan has enough to defeat Ohio State. Now, they think it might be more competitive, but they still, by and large, I think 80% or so of Michigan supporters do not believe that Michigan can defeat Ohio State. And I think it's realistic. Ohio State, not just because Michigan sucks, but Ohio State is that good. They're rolling. Now, they may, come into the game battered and beaten, following a tough matchup versus Penn State, and that may help and bode well for Michigan. But at the end of the day, if Ohio State plays well and plays to their capability, they should leave Ann Arbor with the victory. But Michigan's playing well. Give them credit. They have played a lot better offensively. Gaddis is calling better plays. And Shea Patterson, while not stellar, he's not lighting the world on fire. He's finding his targets. And I think that's been a positive for the Wolverines. How are you standing? What's the state of the Wolverines? And what's the realistic way to approach how the team is playing ahead of a couple of big games?
I don't think they have enough to beat Ohio State. Let's just start right there. I think this offense has kind of figured it out, right? I mean, I was doom and gloom a couple weeks ago, but I think this offense has kind of figured it out. They look like they have the concept of what Gaddis is trying to get out of them. And Michigan State, if this was the Michigan State defense that we thought it was going to be when we started previewing this game at the beginning of the season, I'd be much more impressed, right? And I could definitively say, yes, this team has turned a corner. But they beat up on a bad Michigan State team that looks like they've waved the white flag. So I'm not ready to do that yet. Now they have a test this week against Indiana. You can't look past Indiana. I still need to see more. I still want to see more. When it's all said and done, this season will be a disappointment for me because I had higher expectations. All that being said, I have been impressed with what this team has done to try to rectify a very tenuous situation. This Michigan program was teetering. It was on the verge of collapse. And it was like overnight, they flipped the switch and that defense tightened up a little bit. That offense figured a few things out. All of a sudden, Harbaugh looks like he understands how to coach again. So I think this team is turning a corner. I don't think they have turned the corner. I think they have enough to beat a very good Indiana team. Do not sleep on Indiana. They have a fantastic offense, and their defense is nothing to sleep on. All that being said, when Ohio State rolls into the Big House in 2 weeks, I don't know how they get that done. I don't think this team has enough. I think there are too many primetime athletes on the other side. I think the coaching staff on the other side is just too good. And I don't think Michigan will get it done. I think it'll be yet another disappointing season when everything is said and done, and Michigan's got to go to some dirtbag bowl game.
Now, the tough part is because of the way the season shook out with the losses to Wisconsin and things like that. The challenge is that what if they do win and they finish 10-2? Is it a successful year?
No, because you're not playing for a Big Ten championship. Look. Will it be good if they win? Because, you finally beat Ohio State. Sure. Fantastic. Did you maybe spoil a perfect season for Ohio State? Yeah, sure. Fantastic. But in the end, it's all about going to Indy, playing in the Big Ten championship game, and then having a shot to play in the playoff. And you don't have that. So I don't want to say you're playing for nothing for the rest of the season, because that's not the case. But it is still a letdown. It is still a disappointment because you're not playing for what you want. It's all about winning the Big Ten, and it's all about playing for a national championship in my book. You're just not going to get that. It's just not going to happen because of the losses that you had. If the loss to Wisconsin would have been fine. It's that loss to Penn State that really throws a monkey wrench into everything, because you could have technically win your division and have the opportunity to go and play in the Big Ten championship game and possibly take on what looks like it might be Minnesota. I'm not 100% sure how this is all going to work out when the season's done. And that could have been a really, really good game. And you could have given yourself the opportunity to squeeze into the college football playoff as the 4 seed. But with the way things are going right now, I just don't see that happening. And to me, it's a complete and utter failure because you're not going there. You don't have the opportunity to go there and play.
All right. Yes. Great podcast. Always enjoy an hour breaking down football. Oh, man. So much in the world of sports, man. Can't wait until next week to break it all down with you again. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Definitely, if you agree or disagree with anything that we've said, feel free. Shoot us a message or leave us a voicemail. 248-579-8686. It's open all the time. You can comment on anything that we've said on the show or anything on the other shows. It's great, man. Thank you guys for your support. You've made us a part of the Detroit sports scene, and I love it. It's a great time to talk to Adam, all the fellas hosting podcasts. Look, you've seen it, guys. Every single entity is hosting podcasts. We've become obviously a staple here in Detroit, and because of the fact that you support this and you support other projects, that this podcast game is taken off, and now everybody recognizes it, and everybody knows that podcasting is a legitimate form of broadcasting, and even podcasters can cover sports and have great following, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks, Adam. Talk soon.
Absolutely, brother. Be good.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I am Voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me.